Good evening, Sahiti, Vinesh, Lalita, Tilak. In this video, I am going to discuss in detail about the electrolytic cells. So, coming to the electrolytic cell is a device that is used for the conversion of electrical energy into chemical energy. So, what is meant by an electrolytic cell? So, electrolytic cell is a device that is used for the conversion of electrical energy into chemical energy. So, in general, an electrolytic cell consists of two electrodes dipped in an electrolytic solution. So, electrolytic cell consists of two electrodes dipped in an electrolytic solution. So, for example, here let us consider the electrolysis of molten or fused NaCl. So, in particular, moving to the electrolytic cells, here we can consider three different cases. So, in the first case, let us consider the electrolysis of molten or fused NaCl. So, an electrolytic cell consists of two electrodes dipped in an electrolytic solution, and these two electrodes are connected through a battery for the supply of an electrical energy. So here the electrolytic solution is molten NaCl. Always the electrode which is present on the left hand side acts as the anode, and the electrode that is present on the right hand side acts as the cathode. And remember that in general these electrodes are made up of inert material such as graphite or platinum. So in general the electrodes used in electrolytic cell are made up of inert material such as graphite or platinum, so that these electrodes will not participate in the reaction. So always at anode oxidation takes place. You simply remember AO term. AO means oxidation takes place at anode. Similarly, CR means reduction takes place at the cathode. So, whenever the two electrodes are connected to the battery, so due to the supply of electrical energy, always remember in an electrolytic cell, always it supports non-spontaneous reactions. So, non-spontaneous reactions takes place readily in an electrolytic cell. So here, especially in an electrolytic cell, two important reactions takes place. One being the decomposition reaction. Initially, the decomposition of the electrolyte takes place. That is, here the electrolyte is NaCl. So initially it decomposes into 2Na plus 2Cl minus. So in an electrolytic cell, initially the decomposition of an electrolyte takes place, followed by redox reaction. So coming to the redox reaction, especially here at anode, oxidation takes place. So oxidation means loss of electrons, and at cathode reduction takes place. Reduction means gain of electrons. So what happens at the anode? At the anode, oxidation takes place, that is nothing but loss of electrons, and at the cathode, reduction takes place, and that is nothing but gain of electrons. So always remember, the ions will move to their oppositely charged electrodes. So cations will move towards the cathode, where anions will move towards the anode. So initially the anions move towards the anode and loss of electrons takes place with the liberation of the chlorine gas. So at the anode, chlorine gas will be liberated. Coming to the reaction at the cathode, here the cations will move towards the cathode, and here reduction takes place by the gain of electrons, and it results in the deposition of the sodium metal. So always chlorine gas will be liberated at the anode and sodium will be deposited at the cathode. Is it clear about the electrolysis of molten or fused NaCl? Let us see few more examples. So what are the products formed during the electrolysis of molten NaBr, and also during the electrolysis of molten copper sulfate? One of you guess and tell me the answer. What are the products formed at anode and at cathode during the electrolysis of molten sodium bromide and molten copper sulfate? Any guess? Are you listening? Swati, will you answer? Very good. Bromine gas will be liberated at the anode, and what happens at the cathode? Very good. Sodium metal will be deposited at the cathode. So nice of you. Next, will you answer the second question? What are the products formed during the electrolysis of molten copper sulfate solution? Very good. Here I will give a small hint. If the anion consists of oxygen as one of the atom, undoubtedly it results in the formation of very good Tilak, Sahiti, Aditya, very good. So oxygen gas will be liberated at the anode and copper will be deposited at the cathode. Too good, Swati. So this is about the electrolysis of molten or fused electrolytic solutions. Okay, next, in the second case, let us see what happens whenever an aqueous solution of an electrolyte is. Okay, coming to the case 2, here we will discuss about the electrolysis of aqueous NaCl solution. So aqueous means it is nothing but NaCl in water. Okay, so let us see what are the reactions that takes place at anode and at cathode. So here if you carefully observe the electrolytic solution, it consists of sodium chloride in water. That means initially we have to discuss the decomposition reactions. So here NaCl initially decomposes to give Na plus and Cl minus ions. Similarly, when you consider water, it also decomposes to give H plus and OH minus ions. So here the electrolyte consists of NaCl and water. So NaCl dissociates to give Na plus and Cl minus ions, whereas water decomposes to give H plus and OH minus ions. Here we are having 2 cations and 2 anions. So initially we have to identify which cation will be discharged first and which anion will be discharged first. Always remember, during the electrolysis, the discharge of cations and the anions takes place at the respective electrodes. So, in order to know which ion will be discharged first, one should follow an important principle. So, initially I will explain the principle, that is, an ion with lower discharge potential will be discharged first. So here we are having anions and the cations. Coming to the cations. So with respect to cations, I will give the order of discharge potentials, especially the noble metals. Always noble metals will have lower discharge potential. So noble metals include copper, silver, gold and platinum. So when you take any metal, these noble metals will have lower discharge potential. So these metals will discharge first, followed by H plus ions and then followed by remaining cations. So in a case of cations, always you remember the fact that noble metals will be discharged first. When you compare with other metals, H plus ions will be discharged first. Next, coming to the anions. always halides except fluoride. So especially if Cl minus is present or Br minus is present or iodine minus is present, so they will be discharged first rather than OH minus ions. So if other anions are present, they will have least order of priority. So coming to the anions, always the halides will be discharged first, followed by OH minus ions. This is the order you have to remember always when two or more cations or two or more anions are present in the given electrolytic solution. Okay, let us apply the same principle to the present case, that is electrolysis of aqueous NaCl. So we are having Na plus and H plus ions. So which ions will have lower discharge potentials? So between sodium and H plus ions, H plus ions will have lower discharge potential. So initially they will move towards the cathode. And between Cl minus and OH minus ions, Cl minus ions will have lower discharge potential. So the Cl minus ions will move first towards the anode. So at the anode, oxidation takes place and it results in the liberation of Cl2 gas, and at the cathode reduction takes place by the gain of electrons, and here the liberation of hydrogen gas takes place. So is it clear? So here also I would like to explain a simple hint. So in aqueous electrolytic solution, if the metal is noble metal, then only the metal will be deposited. Otherwise, always remember hydrogen gas will be liberated. It is very, very important. And no change takes place with respect to the anion. If you keep this concept in mind, it is very simple to answer any question. Okay, here also I will give two questions. You just to try to answer. So electrolysis of aqueous copper sulfate solution gives what products at the anode and at the cathode? This is the first question. And coming to the second question, electrolysis of aqueous potassium iodide gives what products at anode and at cathode? Yes, very good, Ram Durga. Yes. So at the anode, O2 gas will be liberated and at the cathode copper will be deposited. Durga, very good. And what about the second question? Aqueous potassium iodide. So on the electrolysis of aqueous potassium iodide, what are the products formed at the anode and at the cathode? Ma, are you listening? Will you answer? Or shall I move to the third case? Durga, you try to answer the second question. Aqueous potassium iodide. Electrolysis of aqueous potassium iodide gives what products at the anode and at the cathode? Can anyone answer? Yes. No change takes place at the anode. Iodine will be liberated. But here the metal is other than noble metal, and hence what happens? At the cathode, hydrogen gas will be liberated. Surya Bhagwan, where are you, sir? Here the electrolysis of aqueous potassium iodide gives iodine gas at the anode and hydrogen gas at the cathode. Okay, here we can also consider third case, that is, till now we discussed the electrolysis of an electrolytic solution by using the inert electrodes. Let us see what happens when active electrodes are used. Active electrodes means the electrolysis of copper sulfate solution by using copper electrodes. Copper electrode means the electrodes are also active. Remember, graphite and the platinum electrodes are inert. They won't take part in a chemical reaction. But if we use electrodes made up of the same material, then these electrodes are active. Then what happens? Let us see what type of reactions takes place at the cathode and followed by at anode. So there will be no change at cathode. At cathode what happens? Reduction takes place, that is Cu plus 2 gains 2 electrons and it results in the deposition of copper. But coming to the reaction at the anode, so the electrode slowly dissolves. That means Cu by the loss of 2 electrons converted into Cu plus 2 ions. This reaction always you have to remember. So whenever active electrodes are used, then what happens? At the anode, the electrode slowly dissolves and releases Cu plus 2 ions into the solution. This is the important reaction you have to remember always when active electrodes are used. This is all about the electrolysis of molten electrolytic solution, aqueous electrolytic solution, and also the electrolysis of any electrolytic solution with active electrodes. Now it's the time to discuss in detail about the multiple choice questions based on electrolytic cells. Yes. Moving to the first question. Are you ready? Are you ready to answer multiple choice questions? Very good. Now listen to me. A solution of nickel chloride was electrolyzed using platinum electrodes after electrolysis. So I will read the given options. Nickel will be deposited on anode. Option B, chlorine gas will be liberated at the cathode. Option C, H2 gas will be liberated at anode. Option D, nickel will be deposited on the cathode. What is your answer? Here, what is the substance electrolyzed? nickel chloride. It is molten nickel chloride. Then what is your answer? Very good, Rebecca, Durga, Aditya. Too good. So always whenever nickel chloride was electrolyzed, chlorine gas will be liberated at the anode and nickel will be deposited at the cathode, and hence very good Swati, Rajeshwari, too good. So option D is the right answer. Moving to the second question. A solution of sodium sulfate in water is electrolyzed using inert electrodes. The product at cathode and at anode are respectively. So, aqueous Na2SO4 solution is electrolyzed, and you are supposed to identify what are the products formed at cathode and at anode. I will read the given options. H2 at cathode, O2 at anode. Option B, O2 at cathode, H2 at anode. Option C, O2 at cathode, sodium at anode. Option D, O2 at cathode and SO2 at anode. Very good, Vaishnavi. It is an aqueous solution. So we have to identify the cation. Here sodium is present. It is other than noble metal, and hence what happens? Hydrogen gas will be liberated at the cathode, and here sulfate ion is present. So oxygen gas will be liberated at the anode. So what is the right option? Durga, very good. Sorry, Durga, what is your answer? Yes. Priceless brains, very good. So option A is the right answer. Moving to the third question. Cathode reaction in electrolysis of dilute sulfuric acid with platinum electrodes is. So you have to identify what happens at the cathode. Very good, Swati. You are supposed to answer for the third question. Cathode reaction in electrolysis of dilute sulfuric acid with platinum electrode. That means you have to identify what happens at the cathode. Yes. Very good, Swati. At the cathode, what happens, Rebecca? Yes. Reduction takes place at the cathode. Very good. Moving to the next question. The passage of current through a solution of certain electrolyte results in the evaluation of H2 at the cathode and Cl2 at the anode. The electrolytic solution is. So here they have given what are the products at the cathode. So at the cathode and at anode, what are the products formed? H2 and Cl2. You are supposed to identify the electrolytic solution. Yes, very good, priceless brains. Aditya, very good. Here at the anode chloride is formed. That means the anion is chloride. And coming to the cathode, H2 gas is released. That means it should be aqueous NaCl. Very good. Tilak, Rajeshwari. So, option C is the right answer. Clear? Next, moving to the fifth question. During electrolysis, all ions move. So, during electrolysis, all ions move. I will read the options. A. In the same direction. B. Do not move. C. Towards oppositely charged electrodes. D. Move randomly. Very good. Vaishnavi, Sarath Kumar, Priceless Brains, Durga, Rebecca, Aditya. Everyone gave the right answer. Very nice. Ions will move towards their oppositely charged electrodes. So, moving to the sixth question. In an electrolytic cell, current flows from. In an electrolytic cell, current flows from. So, here I will explain in a simple manner. So, in an electrolytic cell, in general, a battery will be connected. So, in a battery, what happens? The current flows from anode to the cathode. So, inside the cell, the current flows from anode to cathode. Then, outside the cell, the reverse reaction takes place. That means, the current flows from cathode to anode outside the cell. Now, identify the right option. Yes, very good. Each and every student gave the right answer. So, the current flows from cathode to anode in outer circuit. Next, moving to the seventh question. Electrolysis of salt solution is due to the formation of. Electrolysis of salt solution is due to the formation of. So, electrolysis takes place in a salt solution when. Yes, Priceless Brains, very good. So, if you take any electrolyte, it results in the formation of ions. So, the electrolysis of salt solution is due to the formation of ions. So, option A is the right answer. Moving to the next question. Electrolysis of an aqueous solution of NaOH between platinum electrodes yields. Remember, it is the aqueous NaOH solution. Now tell me, what are the products formed at anode and at cathode? Simple question. Very good. Rebecca, Priceless Brains, very good. It is an aqueous NaOH solution. So no doubt at all, at the anode oxygen gas will be liberated and it is sodium, and hence H2 gas will be liberated at the cathode. So Durga, at once check. H2 gas will be liberated at the cathode. So option C is the right answer. Moving to the ninth question. Electrode at which electrons flow into the electrolyte is. Especially at the cathode, the electrons flow into the electrolytic solution. So option B is the right answer. Electrons flow into the electrolyte at the cathode. So option B is the right answer. 10th question is very important. Which of the following reaction occurs at anode? During the electrolysis of copper sulfate solution using copper electrodes. That means here they used active electrodes, and you are supposed to identify the reaction that takes place at the anode. Try to answer 10th question. What is the reaction at the anode? Very good. Vaishnavi, Rajeshwari, very good. So whenever active electrodes are used at the anode, the electrode slowly dissolves. Rebecca, check your answer. Electrode slowly dissolves. That means copper will be converted into copper ions. At the anode, oxidation takes place. So loss of electrons takes place. So option A is the right answer. Copper will be converted into Cu plus 2 ions with the loss of 2 electrons. Next, let us move on to the 11th question. So, in which of the following electrolysis electrodes act as active electrodes? You have to identify in which of the following electrolysis process the electrodes are active. So I will read the options. Fused NaCl between the graphite electrodes. Option B, fused AgNO3 between the platinum electrodes. Option C, fused NaCl between the platinum electrodes. Option D, aqueous AgNO3 solution between Ag electrodes. In which of the following cases the electrodes are active? You identify which option is the right. Very simple question. When the electrodes are active, if the electrode is made up of the same material, I am waiting for your answer. Just now we discussed. Very good, Vaishnavi, Rebecca, too good. Always remember, graphite and platinum electrodes are active. Here the electrolytic solution is AgNO3 and the electrodes used are Ag. So option D is the right answer. So here the electrolysis takes place in the presence of active electrodes. Rajeshwari, try to identify the right answer. Durga, very good. Swati, very good. S. Coming to the 12th question, the electrolysis of which electrolyte gives the same products in the fused state as well as in the aqueous solution state? So, which of the following electrolyte gives same products in the fused state and also in the aqueous solution state? What is your answer? Very simple question. Priceless brains, very good. If the metal is the noble metal, then you will get the same product at the cathode. So here gold chloride is the right answer. It gives same products in the fused state and also in the aqueous solution state. Before concluding the session, I wish to give 3 test questions. If you know the answer, you just comment. Okay, first question is electrolysis of aqueous NaOH solution gives dash at anode and dash at cathode. That is the first test question. And the second test question is the electrolysis of molten gold chloride produces dash at anode and dash at cathode. Moving to the third question, electrolysis of molten nickel chloride with nickel electrodes involves dash reaction at the anode. If you like the video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thanks for participating. Have a nice day. Good night.